Hi guys, my name is Ollie, and if you're watching this video, we probably have at least one thing in common. We all love Korea. So I've been living in Korea for about 8 years now. It's going to be 9 years soon. And I graduated in Korea. I got my master's degree in Korea, and I'm working for a Korean company right now. This year has been, let's just say it's been different. And while stuck at home, just like everyone else, I was thinking a lot about my time in Korea, about my experience in Korea. So you probably have seen pretty many similar videos on YouTube, and well, that's fine. There's just like 2 million foreign residents in Korea. I'm going to try and show you Korea from my perspective, from my experience, share my experiences with you. If you find my videos, if you find this channel interesting, please subscribe, like the videos, leave comments down below. And if you have any requests, any questions, you can always leave them in the comment section. If you want to know something specific about Korea, if you want me to talk about specific topics, show you some specific places, just let me know. So today I want to talk about something that a lot of people ask me about, and I think that should be a pretty good start for this channel. Today I want to talk about how I learned Korean. Let me just say from the very beginning that in my opinion there is no super easy, super perfect way, super fast way to learn a language. So I'm not going to be giving you like ultimate advices or advertise anything. I'm just going to share my experience and to talk about some things that I think are useful when you learn Korean, especially if you are not able to go to Korea to learn the language, if you're far away, and how you can actually start learning Korean at home where you are. So let me just start from the beginning. I told you I've been living in Korea for 8 years now. So reasonable question, did I know Korean when I got here? Not really. As many other foreigners, I came to Korea driven by excitement, by my love for K-pop, for Korean dramas, Korean food. I got into Korean culture, K-culture, K-dramas, K-pop. I got into all of this back in 2010, I think, through a friend of mine. And this was like a whole new world, like all new experience. Everything was different. The music, the visual, and of course it gets you know how it happens. It gets your attention. You want to absorb it. You want to learn more about it. You want to see more. So I was watching a lot of TV shows, dramas, music videos, a lot of things about Korea like that were accessible at the time, because I gotta tell you this really honestly, 2010, back in 2010, there was none of this. Like, people who are getting into K-pop or into Korea right now, you guys are so lucky because everything is available. Back in 2010, this was a nightmare. So back then, the access to Korean content was not just limited, it was super limited. You had to literally wait for days, sometimes weeks, before some wonderful people, bless those people, could actually translate stuff, make subtitles for it. And then there would be this hours of illegal downloading, and yeah, all sorts of hardships that we had to go through to get access to any of Korean content. But anyways, so as I got interested in Korean culture, it kind of snowballed, right? I wanted to know more, I wanted to learn more. It was just natural that I really wanted to learn the language too. Because at some point it's just not enough for you to read the subtitles. You just really want to know why this joke is so funny. So yeah, I was trying to learn by myself, and it was pretty hard. And at that time, I say that there were really few tutors or schools that could actually teach Korean. And it was pretty sad, really. But luckily, at that time, as K-pop was becoming more globally recognized, Korea itself actually decided to help people learn more about it. So through a friend of mine, I learned that there's this thing. Practically any country has this thing called Korean Cultural Center, established by Korean government. It's all in Korean. It's called 한국문화원. And what is this thing? Their purpose is to kind of promote Korea overseas. That's why they offer you free Korean lessons, free classes, and they have levels from like very beginning, from the beginner to the advanced level, and it's all free and all teachers are Korean. So of course I took the opportunity. I signed up for it and I started for about a year. As I was studying, I got to like the language, I got to like the culture even more. So eventually, well, it came naturally that I really wanted to go to Korea, and this is how I actually got here. After a year of studying Korean at the Cultural Center, I signed up for a language program at one of Korean universities. So I came here to study for 1 year. How this 1 year turned into 8 and running, well, this is another story for another video. So yeah, this is what I did. I studied for about a year. I took free classes for about a year, and then I started searching for classes for language courses in Korea. I did it all by myself. Just went online, found a bunch of universities that offered Korean classes, Korean language schools, and yeah, contacted one of them, and then I just came to Korea. And here's where everything started to kind of change. Like, here's where the drama started, because once I got here, I realized that even though I'd been studying before coming to Korea, things were a lot different. I studied and I learned and I memorized all the words and everything. Everything was, okay, I thought I could do it. But then I got here and I realized that everything is totally different. Like, at first, when people started talking to me, I got like shocked. I couldn't recognize a single word from what people were saying. So I literally gave up on my placement test at the language schools and just decided to take it all from level 1. You see how the actual language sounds different when you get here, and when there's like real people in everyday life talking to you. So yeah, I guess maybe one of the downsides of learning at the Korean Cultural Center was that as it's free, there are like a lot of people who want to study, so the classes are pretty full, pretty packed. So there's not really a lot of time for you to practice your own pronunciation or try some dialogues, except for the student-to-student dialogues. Another difficult thing was that when you actually get to the country and you start living here, you realize that it looks and feels different from what you've seen on the TV screen, in dramas or in TV shows. Well, for once, there's no subtitles to anything. Like, hello, there's no subtitles when there's, I don't know, a grandpa taxi driver with really heavy, like, Busan accent asks you if you have a boyfriend or something, right? There's no one who will, add explanations to whatever people are talking about. And it was like, from my perspective, Koreans in their daily lives are much more like quiet most of the time, much more quiet and reserved. Like, not the image. It's not the image that you normally would see on the idol shows or in variety shows. Like, nobody drops to the floor when they're laughing, and nobody actually uses this like exaggerated gestures and intonations like in Korean drama. Us foreigners being on the other side of the world from Korea, how can we know all these things, right? Like, it's only natural that you start to dive into this when you actually get here. But anyway, like, what can you do to learn Korean effectively in a good way while you're at home, not here in Korea? So I'm just going to touch up on a few things that I think can be helpful. Well, number one, if you're watching this video, you are already doing it. You are online looking for Korean-related content. It means that you already have something you like about Korea, right? Be it K-pop or dramas or Korean food or Korean beauty. Like, you have got to, in my opinion, you have to have something that motivates you, like something you like, something that makes you want to learn more about it to understand it better. But there's a catch. Well, there's always a catch. If you learn a language through videos, music videos, TV shows, and dramas, and so on and so on and so on, you cannot just absorb it the way you see it. You cannot just blindly like repeat whatever you hear there, because, well, it's a different kind of situation. For example, let's just take some idol show, right? Idols who like play with each other, making fun, having fun, making jokes. They're very, very close to each other, and the language they use and their intonations and stuff might not be suitable for a different kind of situation. Like, for example, you would not randomly call a person you just made friends with in Korea like, yeah. That would be totally rude. Trust me, I've learned this through a lot of embarrassing accidents. Not just mine, but something I witnessed. So this brings me to number two. Even if you don't have an opportunity at the moment to like hire a tutor or take a course at a language school, I really, really recommend that you research the web and see if your town, your country has a Korean cultural center. Once again, it's called 한국 문화원 in Korean. Even though, as I said before, there's limited time for each person to actually practice pronunciation, as there are many people in the same class. But with this kind of lessons, you get two things. A, you are having free Korean lessons with a Korean teacher. Most of the time it is a Korean teacher, native Korean teacher. B, as it is a cultural center, they have so many different activities ready for you to experience Korea, to learn more about Korean culture. So it's not just the language you're learning, you learn the environment in which you may further need to speak this language. So please go online, check the main website of the Korean Cultural Center, see if there's one in your country, and really sign up for the class. You would not regret it. I don't know how things work right now in this current situation when a lot of countries are on COVID lockdown, but I'm assuming they would have alternatives. And lastly, number three, please do not be afraid to test yourself. Do not be afraid to use what you've learned, because like, this is a difficult time right now, right? But we can also use this in a good way. Like, all of our lives are online these days, right? You can just use this time to prepare yourself, to get ready for the actual trip, if someday you're going to take a trip to Korea, right? So get familiar with the Korean side of the online world, of social media like Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I mean, simply just, I don't know, search for Korean comments on your favorite YouTube videos, on your favorite music videos. Just try to figure out what they're talking about. This way you can actually learn something that is commonly used in the language. Well, you know, and it's also fun. As for the actual tests, if you're taking a Korean class, after each level up, you can take a Korean proficiency test. I think they have it like once in every 2 months. It's called TOPIK, T-O-P-I-K, a Korean proficiency test. It has 6 levels from 1 to 6. I myself have level 6 at this moment. So you can just take the test and get your certificate that confirms your language ability. Later on, if you decide to come to Korea to study or work, it can actually be used as additional points at admission. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found something interesting for yourself. This channel is made for people who love Korea and want to learn about Korea, but I also like sharing experiences. So if you make videos about Korea or make Korea related content, you can also share in the comments because I love seeing what other people do. I'm very interested in what other people think about Korea, what other people say about Korea. So please leave those in the comments if you want to. If you're planning a trip to Korea someday, you can also ask your questions in the comments. You can leave me messages if you need any assistance, any kind of help. I will be glad to help you with whatever I can. So please don't forget that we can all share our experiences. We can always rely on each other, ask each other questions. So use the comment section a lot, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next videos. 안녕!